What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, I know you guys are probably tired of talking about tariffs, but I saw this little clip come out earlier this afternoon, and it explains everything so well. And if this is what Donald Trump is doing, it's like, I don't know how many dimensional chess game it is, but it is genius. Check this out, y'all.
Trump is crashing the stock market by 20% this month, but he's doing it on purpose. And this is why Warren Buffett just said Trump is making the best economic moves he's seen in over 50 years. Now, here's the secret game he's playing, and it could make you rich. So why is he doing this? To push cash into treasuries, which forces the Fed to slash interest rates in May, and those lower rates give the Fed the ability to refinance trillions of debt very inexpensively. It also weakens the dollar and drops mortgage rates. Now, it's a wild chess move, but it's working. Now, you're probably wondering, what about his tariffs? Well, I'll tell you, it's a genius play. It actually forces companies to build here to dodge them. It also forces farmers to sell more of their products here in the US to bring grocery prices way down. We've already seen this with eggs. Now, remember, 94% of all stocks are owned only by 8% of Americans. So Trump, he's taking from the rich short term and handing it to the middle class through lower prices.
Okay, so that's like very, very fascinating, and it kind of explains a lot of what's going on, right? We just saw like Donald Trump absolutely implode the stock market. It just crashed right down. And then what does he do today? He announces, hang on just a second, he's pausing some of these tariffs. The stock market shoots right back up. So it's like, what is going on? And then China announces retaliatory tariffs for the 104% tariffs, but it's only 84%. What's going on with that? Then Donald Trump, in response to that, 125%. So Donald Trump is absolutely going in on China on this, and it is getting absurd, y'all. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, a lot of this, like, I talk about this all the time. Like, yay, this is great, but it is kind of scary. I'm not going to lie about this. It's kind of scary. He's gambling with the world's largest economy here. So I hope he knows what he's doing. If that guy in that video has any inkling of what is going on, he's absolutely correct, and this is absolutely going to work, and it makes a whole lot of sense to me. But you know what I find so fascinating about all of this is that all you're hearing from the corporate press is this.
And if Peter Navarro is truly a moron, what do you call the person who follows Peter Navarro's advice? Donald Trump has called Elon Musk a genius, and now, according to the Trump formulation, a genius has called Donald Trump's chief trade advisor a moron, and Donald Trump has chosen the side of the accused moron over the Trump-proclaimed genius. So what does that make Donald Trump? Donald Trump is dumber than a sack of blank. And so Donald Trump is desperately worried tonight. He is desperately worried about the crashing stock market, which has lost $6 trillion in value, thanks entirely and exclusively to Donald Trump, following the advice of a person called a moron by a person Donald Trump describes as a genius. And now Donald Trump is worried that the person he thinks is a genius is going to be calling him a moron any day now.
So while they're focusing in on that nonsense, Donald Trump is making all kinds of other moves. Like, everything is like, I'm just covering tariff after tariff after tariff news story. Now, that's not what I've got for you guys today. I've got a news article, and we're going to get into some other stuff because I'm tired of talking about tariffs, y'all. I ain't going to lie. And, you know, economics isn't really my strong suit, but, you know, I do research for these, and all the research I can come up with points to what I say, right? Like, everything I form my opinion based upon the research that I come up with, right? So, like, sure, prices are going to go up. Like, I keep getting these people coming into the comments section calling me stupid because prices go up. Like, yes, of course the price is going to go up. But it's still a good thing because we've got all these massive trade deficits. And, you know, when I first heard Trump talk about trade deficits, I'm like, how do you can't fix that, my guy? Like, really? We just don't produce enough stuff. That's the point, though. Once again, there are trade barriers that we've got to hurdle over to try to export any goods anywhere in the world because all these countries have tariffs on us. Once I learned that, like, we're getting tariffed all over the place and we don't charge tariffs to anybody, like, this is odd. I found that highly suspect. right? So, kind of looking into all this, I'm like, what are the tariffs? What is the ultimate outcome of the tariff, right? You listen to the mainstream news and they just tell you it's a tax on you. That's all they say. They don't say anything else. And that is so surface level. It's like, are you guys serious about all this? Like, they don't give you any other information other than it's a tax on you. And I'm like, that can't be it. So you go look into some of this and you're like, oh, okay, so this is what it does. It attempts to protect domestic manufacturing. But what Trump is doing, a lot of this is one reason why, he ordered the 90-day pause or whatever, is because that was the negotiations, right? Like, I've been saying this for a while. Like, some of these are meant to bring back manufacturing. Some of them are meant for negotiating. Blah, 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 you get it. But it is resetting the trade deals that we had with all these other countries. It's resetting all of that, which is good, right? So if what he is saying is true, bring down the stock market, right? So we can refinance the debt. Hey, that's not a bad idea. Like, that sounds absurd on its face. How do you refinance $36.4 trillion in debt? Well, that would be one way to do it, right? And once again, if what he is saying actually comes to fruition, this is going to be good, y'all. It's going to be real good. And we are going to be set for a pretty good long while. But let's get into the actual news right quick, because appeals court clears the way for the Trump administration to fire thousands of probationary workers. That is right. So once again, folks, and I've got another, as a matter of fact, court case on my next video, so y'all make sure and stay tuned. Check that out. Let's go ahead and dip into this right quick, because here we go, y'all. Like I was saying, when the first injunction started coming down, I'm like, you guys just wait. All these firings, all this other nonsense, these activist judges, they're not ruling based upon the law. Once this goes to appeals, once this goes to the Supreme Court, it will be overturned. And not because, the Supreme Court is under the thumb of Donald Trump, but because, like we saw the other day, the Supreme Court, as a matter of fact, those are actual judges. Sure, they have some ideologues. Sonia Sotomayor is an ideologue, right? Clarence Thomas, yeah, okay, I will admit, he's kind of an ideologue, right? But all the other justices, they are justices, as a matter of fact. They are not ideologues. And so they're going to rule based upon how the law was supposed to be interpreted, right? So there you go. But like I said, these federal circuit judges, and once again, that's not to say that there are no activists on the appeals circuit, because there definitely is. There's a lot of those as well. But, you get a good mix a lot of times. Sometimes it sways one way, sometimes it sways the other way. But, ultimately, when it comes down to the Supreme Court, we've got a pretty good mix. Because, everybody says, oh, it's a conservative majority. But, if you go look at the statistics, Amy Coney Barrett, who's supposed to be a conservative, she sides with the liberals a lot. A whole lot. Right? And a lot of times, we're not really surprised by what the Supreme Court's, by their decisions. Not surprised at all. They rule based upon the law, how it should be interpreted. But I'm repeating myself at this point. A federal appeals court cleared the way Wednesday for President Donald Trump's administration to fire thousands of probationary workers, halting a judge's order requiring them to be reinstated in a legal win for Trump's effort to downsize the federal workforce. The decision comes a day after the Supreme Court also sided with the Trump administration in another lawsuit filed over mass firings. Yes, that was the one we covered yesterday, as a matter of fact. A split panel for the Fourth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals found the terminations of federal workers should probably be appealed through a separate employment process rather than fought out in federal court. Two judges appointed by a Republican president sided with the administration, while a third Democratic judge dissented. The decision comes in a lawsuit filed by nearly 24 states who said the mass firings will cause irreparable burdens and expenses to support recently unemployed workers. They said at least 24,000 probationary employees have been terminated since Trump took office. The states could seek further review as the lawsuit continues to play out. Of course, we've got the Supreme Court. The Republican administration has argued that the states have no right to try to influence the federal government's relationship with its own workers, but also had already reinstated some 15,000 workers to full duty or paid leave as the lawsuits played out, according to court documents. The appeals court order halts a decision from U.S. District Judge James Bredar in Baltimore, who was one of two judges appointed by Democratic presidents who found that the Trump administration violated federal laws in carrying out the terminations and 20 agencies in the states that sued. The Supreme Court blocked another order from U.S. District Judge William Alsup in San Francisco on Tuesday, finding that nonprofit groups lacked legal standing to sue over the firing of probationary workers. Yeah, like I covered yesterday, that makes absolutely no sense. Get this, you guys, right? You get the federal government auditing itself or firing its own employees, and then you get these outside groups, NGOs for crying out loud, suing the federal government for firing its own employees. What sense does that make? In what world does that go over normally? As a matter of fact, it doesn't. That doesn't ever go over normally. That makes absolutely no sense. And apparently, once this makes it to the sane circuit, if you will, the U.S. Court of Saneness, they come to realize, look, that, you know, the executive branch has to have some sort of authority over the executive branch. Otherwise, we don't have co-equal branches at this point. And this is what these activist federal judges are trying to do. They're trying to usurp the power of the executive branch. And you can't do that, my guys. Like, you're going to throw the balance of power out with the co-equal branches, right? We have checks and balances for a reason, right? One check can't step out of balance with the other, right? Like, it just doesn't make any sense that these federal judges think that they have equal power to the president of the United States. No, my guy, you are a branch, a co-equal branch, not just one dude, right? The entirety of the judiciary can halt the executive branch on certain things, but there are certain things it has ultimate reign over, if you will, right? Ultimate authority over certain actions, and these judges are trying to push the boundaries, if you will, of what those authorities actually are, trying to, you know, causing a constitutional crisis, if you will. It's crazy, y'all. The case still has additional plaintiffs, however, and Alsup was weighing Wednesday whether to again order reinstatement on behalf of the state of Washington and labor groups. Probationary workers have been targeted for layoffs across the federal government because they're usually new to the job and lack full civil service protection. The states suing the Trump administration in the Baltimore case are Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Wisconsin, along with Washington, D.C. And it was so nice of them to put that in alphabetical order. How nice of the Associated Press to do so, which is so funny because we're going to be talking about the Associated Press next. Yeah, that's on my next video. So y'all got to make sure and stay tuned for that. But, you know, getting back to all this, like, it's absurd, some of these federal circuit judges thinking that they can rule outside of their district, outside of their circuit, if you will, have a nationwide injunction, right? So what does that essentially do? Right? So, like, say if it's, I don't know, a deportee or something like we saw with Abrego Garcia. Right? So, you got the Trump administration using a 1798 law, right? I can't stand how they say, oh, it's a 1798 law. It's an old wartime law. Yeah, but it's not just a wartime law. Sure, you can implement it during wartime, but it also applies for predatory incursions into the United States, or any sort of incursion at all by a predatory group of humans, as a matter of fact. So it doesn't have to be a wartime, but that's what the corporate press narrative, because what they want you to think is this is some outdated section of the Constitution, right, which is absurd on its face, because Murder has always been against the law in this country, but that's neither here nor there. But they want you to think this is some out-of-date section of the Constitution, right? And they want you to think that, oh, this is only supposed to be used during wartime to make you think that the Trump administration is acting illegally, like it's acting outside of its constitutional authority, which is just patently absurd. But this is why I bring you the news, folks. This is exactly why I bring you the news. But it's like we getting back to Abrego Garcia. He puts these nationwide injunctions all over everything. So all these deportation flights, right? Donald Trump talks to the president of El Salvador. They work out a deal, right? So we're going to send back Tren de Aragua, who originate from El Salvador. Hey, you want these prisoners? He's like, sure, we got plenty of room. So the Trump administration starts rounding these people up. One person sues the government, and all of a sudden, this one judge in this one little district puts a nationwide injunction over all of this and stops all of this, which pauses foreign negotiations, right? Foreign relations, essentially. That's where the constitutional crisis comes in. It's not the fact that Donald Trump is deporting criminal aliens. That is very, very normal. That is very, very bland, as a matter of fact, as well. Deporting criminal aliens. Once again, like I said, there were 0 injunctions on the Biden administration for deporting criminal aliens. 0. None whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, Donald Trump has like 6 just for deportations. And that's it. So it just doesn't make any sense that these judges can think that they can just rule over the entire nation, right? They're federal circuit judges, right? District judges. That's it. So I think, in my honest opinion, I would love to see the constitutionality of these nationwide injunctions go to the Supreme Court, and let's see what the Supreme Court says, right? Like, there's a lot of people thinking that the Supreme Court, with this new Trump administration, considering all the actions they've been taking, that the Supreme Court is going to be overturning a lot of stuff, like gay marriage, for instance. Like, that's going to make it to the Supreme Court. There's a case pending that's supposed to be heard by the Supreme Court, and a lot of people think that that's going to get overturned because of the case, the precedent that was set a while back, allowing for gay marriage, right? Like, what I find so fascinating is a lot of people don't remember this, like they memory hole a lot of this stuff, that gay marriage wasn't all that long ago, right? Like, Obama was against it. Put it that way. That's not that long ago, y'all. Like, this day and age, we think of it like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. Who cares, right? Like, seriously, though, like, outside of that, the cultural aspect, I really don't care, to be honest with you. Personally, though, my earnest opinion is it's unnecessary, because marriage is a union. That's simply for you and your wife and God. If you don't believe in God, then why are you getting married? Now, I understand that there are other aspects to it. You know, you have, like, your tax filings and all that. You get deductions for that, and there's other incentives from the states. Blah, 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 blah. You get it. But I don't understand the point myself. Like, I have a ring, right? I call my wife, but we are not legally married, because I just don't understand why we have to go to the state and ask their permission to get a license. Pay them for her and I to be together. That makes absolutely no sense, right? Now, we bonded our union, if you will, under God, just not through the state. So we are married under God, just not through the state, if you will. That's how we did it. Yeah, we had a wedding and all that. Didn't get a license, as a matter of fact. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm telling on myself. I don't think anybody really cares. But, I just don't see the need for the state to intervene in that. Because if two dudes want to be together, sure, fine, whatever. Like, why should we care about that, in other words? A lot of people do, though, because it sets a precedent. Because, once again, now we get all this intersectional nonsense that we've been having to deal with all this woke ideology garbage and this gender affirming crap. it can get out of hand. And this is something that has been coming around for a very, very long time, ever since no-fault divorce, right? And you might be thinking, like, how do those two connect? Well, there is a connection there, as a matter of fact. No-fault divorce means that we just allow people to get divorced for pretty much any reason. Now, you have different laws from state to state to state. It says maybe you got to go to some counseling, or maybe you got to do this, or you got to do that. If you have a good enough reason, they don't make you do that. But if you just want to split up because you don't like each other, I know a lot of places they'll try to get you to go to counseling. Judges will, as a matter of fact. But, outside of that, like no-fault divorce, just you could get divorced for no apparent reason, right? Which I think is absurd, to be honest with you. Like, we should have very good reasons for wanting to get a divorce, right? If you can't pick the right person, sure, you made a mistake, fine, whatever. But I think that set the precedent in the lead up to all this other nonsense, right? But it's loosely connected, but it is connected because, once again, that allowed for people to just get divorced, and then that allowed for one thing after another, after another, after another. It's like one of those things where you give an inch and they take a mile type of thing going on. And then we get all this intersectional garbage that we've got these days. And it just, it could have, might have been unavoidable. You never know. And that could be just a loose connection in my brain that connected no-fault divorce to all this intersectional woke nonsense that we've got going on right now. But, it is what it is, and I've gotten way off topic, and I'm rambling, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. How are you dealing with the Terrifier, if you will, old Donald Trump over there? But y'all let me know what y'all think about the court case, about the everything that's going on with the circuits and all that nonsense. Y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. Y'all try to have a good day. Stay logical. Peace.